So this screen may be fairly familiar to you all by now. I'm sure you've all had a good play around with this. So I'm just going to start off with the quick sourcing function up here. We know this is something that you'll be using fairly regularly for those indicative conversations, nice and early and before you've sort of dived into a fact find and got all those customer details. So it's up there at the top. I'll just do that again just to show you where it is. That's up here on in the middle of the top bar. So let me put my little mouse highlighter on for you. That might make it a little bit easier for everybody. There it is, up on the quick source function. So in here, it will show all products. It's going to be fairly high level. It does automatically default to those figures at the top there. That is partly because being a London-based firm, in London, the developers couldn't possibly comprehend that anybody might buy a property for less than £500,000. But of course, we know that that's very easy to change. So I'm going to bring that down straight away to 250,000, which is probably something that's a little bit more realistic for anything outside the M25. And again, deposit, let's bring that down to 50,000. What you can probably see is every change that I'm making there, there's a blue line that goes across. That's the loading bar. That's how quick it is. I know when we were out doing the training, things were a little bit slower, but I'm quite fortunate that I've got quite a quick internet connection here. So you can see just how quick this can update. For example, we've got a 5-year fix up there. Change that down to 2. In a count of 3, we've got those 2-year fixes straight away. So it is pretty swift. We can change what we're looking for up here nice and easily as well. Obviously, there are some limited options in here because, of course, in order to get into some of the nitty-gritty things like the limited company ones and the commercial, you've got to start building fact find. So what have we got on the screen then? A lot of this is fairly typical to a standard sourcing system. And, you're all experienced, qualified mortgage advisors. I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. You all know, what initial rate means and what rate type means. So what's important in here then? So one of the big ones, the ability to move things around. At the moment, you can see that this is sorted at the top here by true cost, which also just happens to be the lowest on rate there. But of course, if I wanted to change that around, it's quite so simple as just clicking on that and it will refilter for me based on that. There was a little shift down the bottom on here, I think, when that just changed there, but that top deal was still the cheapest. Of course, the lowest rate is likely to be the lowest true cost. Reversion rate, that one might be something that's particularly important to you. So you might want to say, actually, I really want that right next to it so I can see that easy at a glance. You just drag and drop, move those around, and you can see exactly what you want to see. Initial payment, I think that one's probably a very important one. So actually, maybe that one is over here for us. So I can see lender, rate, initial payment. The thing that's worth noting about moving these columns around is Acre does remember them. So once you've moved them around in your case and you're happy with them, it's going to be exactly the same next time. So it's not something you're going to have to keep remembering to change around. But let's say that initial payment is something that's so important to me. I want it always right over on the left, easy to spot. So if I pin that over to the left over there we go, it stays. And that's just on the 3 little dots, select the option, and you can pin. So actually, I'm saying, no, I want it over to pin to the right now, so I can compare it over there next to true cost and initial payment. There it is, simple as that. But actually, I'll say, no, I want to leave it back over here next to initial rate. And you can do that with any single one of these fields. They've all got the little 3 dots next to them. Go along and pop that wherever you want it to go. What else have we got on this screen? So when we actually get into a case, which we'll do shortly, you'll actually find that there's a scroll bar across the bottom and a few more columns. That's because this one hasn't got any extra filters applied or any criteria applied. So you might notice there's no affordability in there. I know we showed you how that affordability calculator works and how it automatically does 37 affordability calculators for you within the system. But that isn't there because as it's a quick source, we haven't actually entered any income details. True cost, there it is. As we know, the regulator stipulated, I think back in 2019 now, what that true cost calculation must look like. They were really clear what it looks like. We all know we've got various different opinions of what true cost really should be, but that is what the regulator requires it to be. and it will automatically always source it for you on that basis. It is worth noting that when we get to save a case or save a product back to a case, shall I say, later on, if you're not sorted in true cost order, it won't allow you to do that. So it won't allow you to build a file that doesn't meet those FCA requirements. Acre's got your back on that front. It's not going to let you do anything that you shouldn't do and put you in breach of the mortgage code books. But within that, just above the true cost, we've also got that configure true cost button there. So if you hover over that number, it tells you what's factored in that calculation already. But it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out that actually those monthly payments times 24 doesn't actually factor in that arrangement fee. That what's left of that 999 isn't included in it. But what you can do is if you go into the configure true cost button, is you can include the remaining principal after the calculation. What that will do is it will tell you what it will be, rolling in those fees. It's still coming out at the cheapest cost because it's worked out to be the more cost effective over those 24 months. That particular one could be really useful if you're dealing with, let's say, a buy-to-let case and you've got a £6,000 fee. Whereas over the 2 months, it might only be a £2.50, £3.50 that is included on the monthly cost, which of course leaves around £5,500 worth of fee not actually being factored into that calculation. So that box in there, configure true cost, that bottom tick box, include the remaining principal after the calculation, is a really useful tool to deal with that. You might also want to think about redemption fees or adding the cost of the fees included. Whatever you would like to do in that. Any of these changes that you do within this drop-down box will keep you within the requirements of the FCA definition of true cost calculation. So don't be frightened to play around with those and do what's most appropriate for your customer. There's a few other bits and bobs in here, which are things like this Y button, but I shall show you that when we get into a case shortly, because it allows us to demonstrate it a lot better. Customizing columns, if there is something in here you're particularly interested in or not interested in, you might say, actually, I'm such a good advisor and I'm on top of my customers so much that they never ever get near that reversion rate. I've diarised 9 months in advance and I've put them in and I've got an application in 6 months. So that reversion rate's never a problem. So it never matters to my customers and I don't base my advice on that. So I'll tick that box and get rid of it. All it's doing is just moving it away for you. Or you might say that actually, I'm going to trust that the system is doing what it needs to do in terms of LTV. So I don't need to see that information. So I'll get rid of that. Whatever works for you. So you might say, actually, what really matters is being able to see the vital information. Product code. I don't need that. Now I've got a really nice, slick, straightforward dashboard seeing what I need to see. I will pop those back in now, though, because, of course, as I said earlier on, it will remember what I've done and show it in those other cases. Additionally, we've got those down the left-hand side here with various different filters. These ones, it's probably important that you do have a really good look at these and play with those. One that's really useful is that include green mortgages. I know we showed you that one out on the face-to-face training. So as you can see, we've got the little leaves, but let's get rid of those. That isn't relevant in this particular transaction. And again, updated really quickly. Not a new world property, so that's already automatically factored in for us. Right, so that's the whistle stop through quick source. But let's get into a proper case now and actually show you what you're here to see. I would expect. I'll close that tab and we'll move on to this one here. So this case here, in true Blue Peter fashion, is one I prepared earlier. It's a product transfer case. And I'm going to make some assumptions in doing this that because we all showed you how to do the fact find on that training, I'm not going to go through that now. What I will do is just show you the pertinent parts of that fact find because it's already completed. But there were a few little bits in there because obviously product transfer test is not a real person, so we know it won't have passed the ID check and things like that. So I'm not going to go through all of that now. So what matters in a fact find when you're doing a product transfer case? Of course, a complete fact find is always important, but there are some things that are a little bit more important when it comes to a product transfer case. So you can make sure that those details are carried across. It is important that when you go into the fact find, the existing mortgage is entered. So you would do that in your properties tab, just over here in your fact find. And obviously this is already created, so I'll show you what's in there. So edit this property, and you'll see at the bottom I've already got the current mortgage on the property already entered, all the details in there, just to make it nice and clear when we're transferring those across. You might notice on here that this is a HSBC product. So it's going to be ever so slightly different when we go through, because we're going to make some assumptions just to make it easier to demonstrate. So with a product transfer, we know that certain products are not going to show. So when we go into the sourcing, let's just demonstrate what we've got to start with. So straight into sourcing, and it's now working out what a remortgage option would look like. And all of those deals are thrown in there. HSBC ones are there, because HSBC are one of those product providers that include their details in the sourcing. However, we know that some providers don't do that. And what we can do, though, is we can make them appear in this system through magic, which I'll demonstrate right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out of that sourcing, and down on the left-hand side, I'm going to go into products. There it is. So as you can see at the bottom, it's already saying we've got a HSB existing product, and it's going to end in a little under a month. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually create a product, and I'm going to be a little bit difficult for the system just to make a point in there. And I'm going to pretend that we've actually got a Halifax product here, because we all know that Halifax don't include their products within the sourcing system for those loyalty and existing customer products. So what I'll do is I'll go into the add product function over here, over on the right hand side, and click that and add product. Now this may look familiar. It's fairly similar to what you would see, in your existing systems when you would create a product within there automatically. That's what you would have done before you were integrating to your sourcing systems within the key. There's nothing unusual within this this section. All the fields are exactly what you'd expect. The thing that's particularly impressive is this product code function right here. So if you've got the product code, which of course, if you are dealing with a Halifax loyalty product, you're going to have that through their system. And I do have one which I prepared earlier, which I am just going to pop in now. So it is FEH958. Not showing up for me now. That's helpful, isn't it? FEH95. Typical. I bet this product was withdrawn yesterday, wasn't it? That's what's happened to me. Let's have a look at another one instead. Let's go for that one. No, let's go for a higher loan to value one. Let's go for that one. So as you can see, it's now started to populate some of those extra fields. It's now showing me a tracker, which might throw a little problem in a minute. Let's see if I can find another one that works for us actually. Because I don't want a tracker, because it will say the system will be clever enough to realise that I want it fixed. Let's do. That isn't a 124 months. No, they're all 124 months. Well, fine. We'll have to do that then. We'll do that. So we've got a maximum of 75% loan to value, and it's all populated all those bits and bobs for us. So the mortgage amount that we're working on here, I'll just zoom back to the preferences so you can see. Oh, I can't do that now, can I? It's going to make me save it. Let's just zoom back to those preferences so I can show you what we're working with. So we're dealing with a 20-year repayment fix. So I'm going to amend those details to match this, just so I can demonstrate the point. Well, fixed products, there we go. Let's jump back into that and amend those details. So we're looking at £100,000 repayment and a monthly payment. I'm going to make this one really, really cheap. Just show it appears at the top of the sourcing, just to demonstrate the point. I'm going to make it £200 a month, which we know will be well under what the rest of the market will look like. Reversion rate, let's make that 300, just so it's a little bit higher. And it's a 20-year term. It's not a second charge. I'm going to pop some reference numbers in here, because the more complete this is, the more I can show you in shortly. So it'll all make sense. It's a 75% loan to value. The right mortgage, what will that gross be? 0.4. So let's call that 0.35. Again, just so I've got some figures in there. Rates then, it's populated that for us, which is lovely, but I'm going to bring that down a little bit because as we said earlier on, we're going to go for that 5-year just to match those terms. Now, let me just zoom through that, make sure they're all filled in. Yeah, I'm happy with those, and now I shall save changes. The key thing to bear in mind with that is it's really important that you get these details as accurate as possible, because what this will do is it will input all of that information into your sourcing. It will also then put all of those details into an illustration for you, which again, I'll show you how we do that. That's the real magic. So now we've got that product created. Now let's rerun that sourcing. Right, there we go. So before we had Coventry followed by HSBC, but now you can see that blue one at the top, which is really, really cheap. And I'm sure any customer that can borrow that amount of money based on that would be biting your hand off. But that Halifax deal, which I just entered, has now appeared in the sourcing for us. It's doing all those calculations. It's working at that true cost. It's worked out that it's affordable. It's done all the maths for us. So now what we can do is we can evidence that research has been completed with the product that we're going for, comparing it to the whole market. So obviously what you have to do now is you find the product that you're going for, and then you have to find the second best alternative so you can show that research. No longer needed here. This will do it for you. It's all slotted in. So now you can see that we've got a few more extra fields based on what we saw in the quick sourcing earlier on. That affordable one has now appeared because this case has now got the income details in there. But you can also see it's smart enough to have worked out that the HSBC ones don't fit. So it's telling us that straight away. If I wanted to, I could use the filters to say, let's get rid of those ones because they don't fit the customer, so I don't need to see them. But actually, because I'm seeing enough information up here for ones that do work, I'm quite happy to leave them in so I can see what those comparisons are. Just to reiterate, we know how to use the hover over the affordability, click on the link, and it will give you that affordability calculation. Let's pop that up again. It should pop down in a second. There it is. And there's the completed Halifax affordability calculator, just like magic. And I hope you're noticing as well that it's moving a lot quicker than it would have been when we were sat all in a U shape, in 30 of us all trying to make it work. Again, it really is a pretty swift system when you've got a nice internet connection. So let's dive into this product a little bit. So this is the product that you've decided you wanted. You now want to learn a little bit more about it. So simple as click on it, and then it pops out. This one here has got fairly basic information because, of course, we actually keyed that in. So it doesn't know all that information. So let's just show what actually would be there on a normal product. So let's go into that Coventry one and click that. Now you see there's a lot more tabs. We've got the product details. We've got the fee details. We've got what, sort of property it would accept. What an application is required, the income requirements, that's, what they would be using for affordability purposes. What sort of remortgage basis it could be based upon, whether it's acceptable debt consolidation, and so on. And then the adverse. I know we spoke about Samantha having a CCJ when we were doing the training before. And obviously, this particular customer hasn't got any CCJs to factor in, so that won't cause us any problems. And we've got the prop fees, of course, important to you guys. It's 4.5 on this one, with a slightly higher one than what I assume the Halifax one would be. And the calculators. I really would encourage you to dive into these, understand what's in all of these different fields, have a play around with these calculators. This calculator was quite impressive. I'm particularly impressed by the overpayments calculator, and it tells you exactly how quickly a customer could get things repaid, if that's what they're planning on doing, or it might be something that you say, actually, we're not going to affect that term. We're not going to reduce those payments that way, but it gives you the flexibility to make those overpayments. You could then demonstrate what that would mean to a customer and how much quicker they could repay their mortgage, which of course would be some great advice and really showing some value adding as an advisor there. So let's just go back to our home page of the sourcing here. So I mentioned earlier on we would talk about this Y button up here. So let's say you are expecting a particular product to appear and it's not there. And you sat there scratching your head. Why isn't it there? Why can't you find it? So this up here will help you to find it. So if you just click on the Y button and you choose the lender you're going to find here. I know we mentioned this again on the training, but I'm going to use the same lender the Progressive Building Society. The Progressive Building Society is a really good one to demonstrate the points, but of course you can use any lender that you want to, but I'm going to use Progressive for today. And then of course you would search for the product. So if you are looking for a 2-year fixed, however, I would suggest that you don't do that because this particular system is quite sensitive in this search field. So if the lender hasn't typed it like that and it's actually like this, the system could find that conflict and not find what you're looking for. So our preferred way of doing it is to just put an asterisk, just like that in the box, and then hit search. And then it'll give you all those different products that are currently in the system for that particular lender. So let's choose the top one, just because it's that self-build in there. There's lots of different reasons why this one won't actually show, and select it. And we'll then have a list of criteria points of this particular product is being filtered upon. So as you can see on this one, this rate of a fixed product isn't available to the panel. So that's why that one's not there. It's also because it's a product that's specifically based on home improvements. It's also a product that is only available in Northern Ireland. But this product, this particular transaction is based in England. So it's saying, well, you're in England, you can't have it. There's lots and lots of all these little red crosses, for example, remortgage, loan to value doesn't fit. So now it's telling me I was being so silly. Of course, I wasn't going to see that product. These are the reasons why it wasn't available to that particular customer. And you can do that for anything. What else have we got here? So there's another one, co-ownership. So there's even more on this one because it's not a co-ownership type transaction. But it's a really useful tool when you're expecting to see something that you're not. And that's that Y button. Choose your lender, asterisk in the box, find the product that you're looking for. So we've now decided that actually having a look at this, that true cost is £40,000 cheaper. So that it's an absolute no-brainer that the Halifax deal is the one that this particular customer needs. We'll have a quick look at what it's factoring in. It's doing the 60 payments. It's not factoring any fees because there aren't any to be factored in this particular scenario. But of course, one might say, actually, let's think about what that means now if we include the principals, like I mentioned earlier on. But you can see it's moved that around all over the place now. With all sorts of different impacts because of that calculation is quite a little bit different. Let's get rid of that and go back to those initial details. There we go. So there's our Halifax back at the top. That it will move it around all over the place. You can use those as you need to. Do not be frightened. You're not going to get a failed file because you've used any of these filters, because the system will make sure that you are filtered by true cost. So we're going for Halifax. I select the product. It's telling me it's the cheapest cost, and I want to save the case. I save the case, screenshot of my research has been saved, and the product is now saved to the case. Oh, how did I do that again? So I'm going to select a product, then save the case. I'm going to bring across the Coventry one as well, just because I want to compare it in more real terms. So just so I can demonstrate that again, save the case. It's taking a little bit longer this time. Well, my thing hasn't popped up. Let's do that again. My little bubble hasn't popped up saying that saved the case. It looks like that one isn't saving, but let's go back just to make sure it's not all there. So once I'm finished with that and I've saved that Halifax case, let's go back to the remortgage transaction. Okay, just loading up now. Oh, it had done it for me. So let's get rid of one just while it's duplicated. My little bubble hadn't popped up, and it had done it for me, and it was hiding it from me. So that's that Halifax product. Now, the reason that, like I said earlier on, it's really important that you get those details as accurate as you can, because if you click that E6 button there, it will generate that illustration for you. Just waiting for the spinning wheel. There we go. And there's the Halifax deal. Illustration all completed based on the information that I included. including those monthly payments. It's done all the maths for us. So it is really important that you get those details right. Otherwise, that obviously illustration will be incorrect and you'll have a potential problem on your hands. Okay, so that I think is the product transfer whistle stop tour. So I shall now just move on to what happens if you do want to do a reported transaction. Let me just close this tab now. So we're on to our final tab. So this one here, we've got a porting test case, as you can see by the imaginative name at the top there. So here, the fact find is even more important than it is within a product transfer. Because of course, you are taking the product that they've currently got across to a new property. So the system really needs to know what that existing mortgage is. So again, let's go into the properties and have a look where that is. So that's in the fact find, in the properties on the left-hand side over here, and go into the property. Here you can see what we have got a property which is marked to sell. That's the one that's got the current mortgage attached to, and you need to tell the system that that is the one that it is going, as well as the one that's coming, the new one that you're going to move over to. So one to sell, one to buy. But let's jump into the sell one. Again, scroll down towards the bottom, and you can see that we have a Bank of Ireland transaction, or not a Bank of Ireland transaction, a Bank of Ireland mortgage that we set up the first time around, so with some £350,000 all in there, and all the details in there with a nice low rate, a product that's got another year left on it. So we've got some early repayment charges to factor in if we were to clear it. So lots of things to think about within that particular transaction, getting all those details in there, and lots of reasons why you wouldn't say, let's move provider. That's a real strong reason that year left on that really low rate to stay with the Bank of Ireland for a little bit longer. So all those details are in there, ready to go. So now let's jump over to our sourcing again. So because we've added this product already, we jump into sourcing down in the left-hand side. It's just loading up for us now. And as you can see, that 1.25 product that we were just looking at for 350,000 has slotted into the sourcing. And it's saying, well, actually, what you're doing here is you're buying a property of £500,000 and you need a £450,000 loan. So that 350 that you've already got with Bank of Ireland isn't enough. You actually need another 100,000 or so. And what the system has done here is it's done the maths for you. It's got the existing product of 125 and the top up, which is the best option that they've got there. As you can see, all sorted. Bank of Ireland have got a 5.5, a 5.84, and a 6.2, but that 5.45 is the cheapest for this particular client's circumstances, and it's done the maths. Because that product of the 1.25 is so cheap, you can see that it's really impacted that true cost up at 48,000 there. If you were to say, actually, we're off to the next best option, Clydesdale or HSBC down here at the bottom with their 5.19% or their 5.28% fixed, because that high rate is applying to all of that £450,000 borrowing, you can see that total to pay is a lot higher than the £48,000 that Bank of Ireland would choose. So that's a clear best deal for that customer. So let's do that same process again. Let's click on the product. You can see all the details are in here. It's got all the information ready for you. It tells you what you need to complete that application. And it's also telling you at the top here that it's the lowest true cost for this particular transaction. So let's save that to case. Screenshot is saved to the case. It's done that for us. And let's jump back to, and there you go, there's the product save. I was just waiting for that second bubble to pop up. So let's go back to it. Let's jump back to that file. So now it's taken us back to the properties page because that's where we were when we left it. So now we just need to go back to the sourcing and over to the products down here. You can now see that Bank of Ireland product has slotted in. What it's given you here is the £100,000 extra loan that we need, because we've got the £350,000 already. But you see that there's this extra line here, continuing products. If I press that and drop that down, it's showing me that that £350,000 on that 1.25% is carrying on alongside this additional mortgage, doing that, all those details for us. So if you open up the case through the show details, it's all in there. It's doing it for us. It's worked out what type of transaction it is, what we need to do, and of course, created that file within the file for us. So if we go back to the research, so click on the view evidence of acre research there. So we open that up. It now takes back to that screenshot, now showing in green the product that we chose. You can see that it's time and date stamped at a couple of minutes ago, showing that was the cheapest deal for us. So now we can see that porting is clearly the best option for that customer, showing really strong evidence, meaning that that suitability cannot be disputed. It's very clear that staying with Bank of Ireland is a much better option than moving over to Clydesdale or HSBC, based on true cost, based on monthly payment, and based on rates. Really been able to show you a much more robust way of evidencing your research. So if that ever were to turn into a complaint, there'd be no arguing with that. It's quite clear that that's the right advice for this particular customer. Let's just jump back to the file. And of course, the ESIS and everything will be there. Click on that button and it will do all that maths for you, much the same as it did earlier on for the product transfer that we did a moment ago. So let's just think about anything else that I need to show you while we're in here, because I know we have had a real whistle-stop tour through that one. I know I have zoomed through it quite quickly, and I think that was everything that was on my agenda. But I can see that we've got lots and lots of questions. So, Leah, are you on top of those? Do you want to throw them at me? How do you want to go about this?
I think most of them have been answered. Does anyone have? We've got one from Chris actually that's just come in. Can you produce a suitability letter based on porting and
You
put?
most certainly can.
Yeah,
You certainly can. Yeah,
and put on show missing is what he's asked.
Show missing. What? Yeah.
Lovely.
So you go in. Yeah, you can go into. Obviously, I can't do it right now because the fact find isn't complete. It was I can't create a mortgage because the fact find isn't complete, and the reason the fact find isn't complete is because the ID, and the reason that the ID isn't complete is because the customer isn't called porting test, of course, so it would fail the ID. But yes, you can certainly create a suitability letter for a porting case and a product transfer case. The porting case, because it's set up like this and it's recognizing that there are two elements of the product, it will show two elements of the product within that suitability letter. It does it all for you, and it allows and the space to justify what you're doing and why you're doing it will be factored in. I've done a couple of these myself. It does work really, really well.
Okay. Bear with me. We've got quite a few coming in now. Got one from John saying, "Can you show how to do a dip on a case?"
Unfortunately, no, I can't. Is the honest answer. Because of course I'm not a live advisor, and of course this isn't real life data. So it's that dip button there. Only works for the lenders that do have the integrations for the API set up. There are 7. Every single time we get to the 7, we can't remember who they all are. But Nationwide, Accord, the Darlington are definitely on that list. When that button is illuminated, you can do it. That is a lender that will work, and that will take you through to that lender's intranet and allow you to transfer that data across and complete it. Obviously, we can't show it in the testing environment because, of course, only real client data is going to work on that one. And, of course, real advisor logins and so on will be necessary. So it's not one we can demonstrate, I'm afraid. But my suggestion is jump into the knowledge base up in the right-hand menu up here. Click on that into knowledge base up there. And if you pop in the decision principle, there are some excellent articles based on that and with some screenshots showing you how it works. So that's probably the best way to do it. Until, of course, you're doing the real deal. But, of course, if you are doing the real deal and you struggle, give us a shout. We can help you through that.
Okay, perfect.
Any more?
Just waiting for some to come in. I've got one that says, why did the Bank of Ireland appear 4 times in sourcing? Any ideas on that one if we go back to the sourcing page?
Yeah, so if we go back to the sourcing here, you'll see that what that is doing is it's actually appearing 4 times because there are 4 products on offer. We've got one there, which is a fixed at 5.45. Then we've got a 555, and then we've got a 584, and then we've got a 602. These are varying different products, of course, the Bank of Ireland are offering, and it will depend on the various different. These are actually all of a very similar term. So if you look, actually, that one there was ever so slightly longer. And I'm going to assume there are some. So that one's got different loan to values. So that one is obviously more expensive because the loan to value goes higher. So the reason it's 4 times is because there are 4 products that would meet this particular customer scenario. Obviously, that one there is the cheapest. That's the one that meets best. And there are going to be various different fees and things applied. So let's have a look at that one. Yeah, that one hasn't actually got a fee on there, has it? That one has got a cashback, though. That one hasn't got a cashback. That one hasn't got a cashback. No, that one has got a cashback. So it's the 4 different products. That's why it's there 4 times. But every single time it's including that existing element and the additional top-up product. So 4 different top products for the top-up. So that covers that.
Okay, perfect. Can you source withdrawn products if you need to submit as the product is being pulled?
No, is the honest answer. You
Okay.
can't, not automatically. However, if you've got those details, you've got that product code, you've got all that information, you can manually create it and slot it in exactly the same as we did within that product transfer one. So you can't do it automatically, but you can do it with a little bit more work from you at your end.
Perfect. I've had a couple of people say that they've missed parts of the this webinar today. I'm going to put my email in the chat. If anyone's missed it, I will send it directly to you, but it will be uploaded on our website as well in time. All right. And if anyone has any sort of feedback from today's session, if anyone does want to see a masterclass on a particular topic, also pop me an email and let me know. I'm just having a look through the other questions as we speak as well. Give me one moment. For product transfers, do we need to add an application form to the documents section, as some lenders don't really have an application form? Any ideas on that one?
Yes, so this is that's not an acre question. That's a a TRM policy that's been around for a while. The expectation is that where a lender does provide the application form or a summary, that it is required on the file. That policy hasn't changed. That's one that isn't moving along. However, of course, if they aren't providing one, you will need to attach something to clear that task. So what I would suggest is you get a Word document, you quickly put a line on it to say this lender doesn't provide an application form, and attach that to the file. That will clear the task for the application form, because if those tasks aren't completed, you won't be able to move the case to completion. And if the case isn't marked as complete, the commissions department won't be able to pay you the money. Of course, we don't want to be holding up your funds. So where you can apply an application, upload an application form, please do. That is a requirement, but we accept the fact that not every single lender will provide that for product transfer. So just pop a document on to confirm that.
Right. Is there a way of producing an ESIS in QuickSource?
No, is the honest answer.
Mm-hmm.
Reason for that is because an ESIS is an advised document. Actually, providing an ESIS is a stage of advice. And if a customer were to receive that, they would perceive they've been given advice, which of course would open you up to a whole world of complaints should things not work out. So in order to be able to generate that, you have to put all the client's details in there, so you are actually fact finding before you issue an ESIS, and you can give that full and frank suitable advice before issuing an ESIS.
Perfect. Is quick sourcing only available on mortgages?
It is, yes.
Perfect. Right, I think we're getting some of the answers through. Um, do we know if the research can be printed from that screen?
It can't be, no, because it creates as it doesn't create as a PDF in the traditional sense. It saves that snapshot. However, of course, if you want a screen print, or you can actually just go into you can print a browser, but it won't create as a PDF as you're traditionally used to. So I've never actually tried it, but I'm guessing if I click on the right hand side, I can then hit print. So what that will do is it will print the browser, not the document. So everything that's on that screen right now will just print off, almost like a screen print. So you can in a roundabout way, but not in the way you traditionally expect.
Okay, perfect. Play. If anyone's got any additional last few questions, please do send through.